guest today is Marcia Chellis. She had her own show at Channel 2. It was a children's show. She has degrees in education from Northwestern University and Harvard University. And she's written a bestseller book, the Kennedy, Living with the Kennedys. She's written a number of books, but this time she takes us through the lives of 5 women. When in fact 50 years ago, they're celebrating their 50th anniversary, their 50th birthday. And one of the things I'm kind of interested in, what do you think happens when you're 50? I mean, 40 years old is highly touted as everything changes. But you do 10 years later, which to you, does that seem pivotal if you talk to our viewers about that?
Well, I think it is pivotal in a sense. The idea for the book came when we were 50 years old and had an informal reunion to celebrate turning 50. And at that event, which was on Cape Cod, we talked about things that had happened in our lives, what we had been told or not told about sex, the frustration of not being able to work, the values we were raised with, such as being perfect, pleasing, smiling all the time, keeping our emotions to ourselves, being discouraged from having a career because we were to depend on a man for our identity and our support. And as we talked over that wonderful weekend, we thought, we have really come a long way because we have done all the things that we were hoping to do, that we had it all. And one of the women said, did we make history or did history make us? And at that point we thought, maybe there should be a book.
Well, I think it's interesting, did we make history or did history make us? The thing that sometimes upsets me is I am a generation removed from you. So I was a working woman with 2 children. And that was considered very déclassé, and why aren't you home with your children? And, which I would get from other women. And then little by little, I saw a change, and the changes started to come in my generation, but they also moved along with your generation. But your generation, the mothers, were telling their daughters that this, in your book, I mean, you point this out, as you say, the looking always perfect, and going to the best schools, getting the finest education, but the whole idea was to have an engagement ring on your hand at the end of that 4 years. And I used to think to myself, why is everybody wasting this education?
Exactly, that's right. And I think that we felt that way, and I think some of us saw the frustration in our own mothers' lives, that my mother, for example, was very well educated, very bright, and she was raising 4 children, doing a beautiful job, did a beautiful job, but it wasn't enough. And I sensed that, and the girls in the book sensed that about their own mothers. And I think that was part of the motivation and the catalyst for us to try to have it all by working and having children and being wives and contributing to the community as well.
Well, in your 5 girls, Margot, Brooke, and Laura and
Barbie.
They're all very different, but Brooke is, her husband wants her to work. This is kind of an interesting, so did you have in your when you had the birthday celebration, did you have somebody there whose husband actually wanted her to work?
Well, there were a few times in several of the girls' lives when it was necessary for them to work. We were going into a period of time when 2 incomes were necessary to keep up a certain level of lifestyle, and it did happen for
your dancer-singer, whose husband leaves her.
She had to support her daughter herself, and Margot needed to work and wanted to work. She always wanted a big city career. And Laura was asked by her husband, he was very well educated here and abroad, and yet he could not sustain the lifestyle that they needed to, and Laura went to work. And
now she was the one that had this north-south conflict.
That's right.
And did you have somebody in your group that did have this conflict? It was hard for me to separate, reality from fiction. I mean, this is a faction book.
It's all real.
Yeah.
No, it's all real.
It's all real.
All real.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And so she had
Very
great conflict.
She did. She did, because she was carrying with her the ideals that she grew up with. That her mother and father had a perfectly loving relationship, and she wanted to do for her children what her mother had done for her. And so I've been extremely gratified by the way readers so far, and the book is brand new, how readers have connected with these stories and the depth and the heartfelt sharing that these women.
Well, it is amazing that they related all this to you. I am.
It is amazing.
And I mean, the book is so honest. It's a marvelous walk through that particular era. And the interesting thing about this book is that so often as not books will do this, but they don't start from childhood. And you start from childhood and all the factions that went into it. It is just an absolutely fantastic book. It is The Girls From Winnetka, and it is a book to read. Thank you. What is your website?
My website is Marcia Chellis, MarciaChellis.com.
And are you available for lectures or anything?
I have a lot of lectures set up where I'm living now, which is Palm Beach. Used to be from Boston.
And do you have a website that people can get to for lectures or anything like that?
Yes. There'll be information on MarciaChellis.com.
Okay. It's a marvelous book. Thank you so much for being our guest. It's been a delight.
See you again. Thank you.